Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Robert Allen, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Sergeant Jeanette McNeely. We warmly welcome the family of Private John Alex McDonald, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Those requiring a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private John Alex McDonald. John McDonald was born in 1892 in Geelong, Victoria, one of 8 children born to Scottish hoteliers Donald and Catherine McDonald. John received his education at St Mary's School, Geelong, before his parents sold their hotels and bought a farming property at nearby Conowari. He continued his schooling there at Bluestone School before taking up an employment on the family farm. When war broke out in August 1914, John did not delay his enlistment, volunteering for the Australian Imperial Force on the 21st of September. He was assigned to the newly formed 6th Battalion and began a short period of training in Australia. On the 19th of October 1914, he boarded the troop ship Horata in Melbourne, bound for active overseas service. After a brief stop in Albany, Western Australia, Private McDonald continued on to Egypt, arriving in early December. He continued training, camped near the pyramids west of Cairo. In March 1915, his unit was transferred to the Greek island of Lemnos ahead of landing at Gallipoli. McDonald went ashore on the 25th of April 1915 as part of the second wave. Under heavy enemy fire, the men made their way to the beach and dug in. 10 days later, the 2nd Brigade was transferred from its position at Anzac Beach to Cape Helles, which had been the site of the heavy British casualties. The 6th Battalion was tasked with supporting an attack on the village of Krithia. The initial attack on the 28th of April had been ill-coordinated, and a strong Turkish counterattack pushed back the British forces, causing multiple casualties. Private McDonald's first major battle of the war would take place during the Allies' second attempt to take the village. At 5:20 p.m. on the 8th of May, the men of the 6th Battalion received orders to get into formation for an attack. They advanced 10 minutes later. At 5:30 p.m, with the 6th Battalion in the centre, the 7th Battalion on their right, and New Zealand troops on their left, under heavy shrapnel, rifle and machine gun fire, casualties grew. Private Lyndon Watt, who took part in the charge, described the attack on Krithia. On we went, rush after rush, till at last I could see our objective, a Turkish trench in Krithia. By this time we had worked up to a high fever of madness. The fire through which we forced our way was heavy, not only coming from the front, but from the left also, and my comrades were dropping all around me. Though the Allies managed to push the enemy attack back almost a kilometre, they suffered thousands of casualties and were unable to achieve their initial objective. Private John McDonald was killed in action during this attack. Initially listed as wounded and missing when he was unable to be located after the battle, it was not until April 1916 that a court of inquiry determined that he had been killed in action during his unit's attack on Krithia. This ruling was confirmed in 1920 when members of grave digging parties at Gallipoli discovered his remains at Pine Ridge. His remains were exhumed and he was reburied at Lone Pine Cemetery, where he lies today, beneath the inscription, "Rest in peace." Private John McDonald was 23 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst more than 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories in service of sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private John Alex McDonald, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.